Shalom Aleichem. Peace be upon you, and welcome back to the broadcast. This is a faithful saying, and these things I will that affirm constantly, that they which have believed in God might be careful to maintain good works. These things are good and profitable unto men, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and striving about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. A man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject. Titus chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Well, welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Sean, your host. The website is www.scriptureandprophecy.com. Today, we are continuing our study in the book of Jubilees, the ancient book of Jubilees. Many manuscripts of this book found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And if you're new to the book of Jubilees, it's basically a companion piece, historical companion piece for the book of Genesis. Fills in some gaps, but in some areas it doesn't fill in any gaps. For example, this issue where Joseph is sold into Egypt, which we're going to read about today because we're doing chapter 34 and 35. The book of Genesis gives us way more information about what took place for this event. And then the book of Jubilees quickly moves on from it and starts talking about some other issues. We have the death of Rebekah that we'll read about in chapter 35. But in a couple of weeks, when we get to chapter 39, we start to see a lot more information about Joseph and Potiphar and the Potiphar's wife and all that stuff. So that's what's to come over the next few weeks, and we're ready for chapter 34 today. We're about 75% through this book, maybe 80% through. So only a few more weeks, the book of Jubilees left, and this has been a great study. Lots of positive feedback on it. All right, let's not ramble on anymore this morning. Let's jump right in. We're going to be looking at chapter 34, the ancient book of Jubilees, verse 1. And in the 6th year of this week, of this 44th Jubilee, Jacob sent his sons to pasture their sheep, and his servants with him to the pastures of Shechem. And the 7 kings of the Amorites assembled themselves together against them to slay them, hiding themselves under the trees, and to take their cattle as prey. And Jacob and Levi and Judah and Joseph were in the house with Isaac their father, for his spirit was sorrowful, and they could not leave him. And Benjamin was the youngest, and for this reason remained with his father. And there came the king of Taphu, and the king of Eresa, and the king of Saragon, and the king of Selo, and the king of Gaaz, and the king of Betharon, and the king of Maanisker, and all those who dwell in these mountains, and who dwell in the woods in the land of Canaan. And they announced this to Jacob, saying, Behold, the king of the Amorites have surrounded thy sons, and plundered their herds. And he arose from his house, he and his 3 sons, and all the servants of his father, and his own servants, and he went against them with 6,000 men who carried swords. It's important to note that it's possible, according to the footnotes here, that the 6,000 might actually mean 800. They're not sure. The translator here is not sure for whatever reason. So it could have been 800 men or 6,000 men. I would say more likely 800, but we're not sure. Verse 7. And he slew them in the pastures of Shechem, and pursued those who fled. And he slew them with the edge of the sword. And he slew Eresa, and Taphu, and Saragan, and Selo, and Ameniskar, and Gaaz. And he recovered his herds, and he prevailed over them, and imposed tribute on them, that they should pay him tribute, 5 fruit products of their land. And he built Robel, and Tamarite, and Tamatares, and returned in peace, and made peace with them, and they became his servants until the day that he and his sons went down into Egypt. And in the 7th year of this week he sent Joseph to learn about the welfare of his brothers, from his house to the land of Shechem. And he found them in the land of Dothan. And they dealt treacherously with him, and formed a plot against him to slay him. But changing their minds, they sold him to the Ishmaelite merchants, and they brought him down into Egypt, and they sold him to Potiphar, the eunuch of Pharaoh, the chief of the cooks, priest of the city of Alu. And the sons of Jacob slaughtered a kid and dipped the coat of Joseph in the blood and sent it to Jacob their father on the 10th of the 7th month. And he mourned all that night, for they had brought it to him in the evening, and became feverish with mourning for his death. And he said, An evil beast hath devoured Joseph. And all the members of his house were grieving and mourning with him all that day. And his sons and his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted for his sons. And on that day, Bilhah heard that Joseph had perished, and she died mourning him. And she was living in Kaph-Taraph. And Dinah also, his daughter, died after Joseph had perished, and there came these 3 mournings upon Israel in 1 month. And they buried Bilhah over against the tomb of Rachel, and Dinah also, his daughter, they buried there. And he mourned for Joseph 1 year, and did not cease, for he said, Let me go down to the grave mourning for my son. For this reason it is ordained for the children of Israel that they should afflict themselves on the 10th of the 7th month. And on that day that the news which made him weep for Joseph came to Jacob his father, that they should make atonement for themselves therein with a young goat on the 10th of the 7th month, once a year for their sins, for they had grieved the affliction of their father regarding Joseph his son. And this day hath been ordained that they should grieve thereon for their sins, and for all their transgressions, and for all their errors, so that they might cleanse themselves on that day once a year. Please note, I mentioned this during this study a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was even last week, that even the most blessed and anointed of God suffer great hardship in life, as do we all. You know, you look at Jacob and you think, man, he's been so blessed. He has 4 wives, he has 12 children, he has all these flocks and herds and hundreds, if not thousands, of servants, land. The Messiah is going to come through his lineage. You know, he's blessed beyond being blessed, right? But look at all the hardships he's had to deal with. Right now, he has these 3 mournings. 2 of his wives die. His wife Bilhah dies, concubine. His daughter Dinah dies. He believes that Joseph is dead because his brothers have sold him into slavery, dipped his coat in blood, and sent it back to him. It wasn't that long ago that his wife, the one he loved, that he worked 14 years for, Rachel, she is dead. She died giving birth to Benjamin. His father is near death. His mother is soon to die. So, no matter who we are, nobody is free from the woes and the challenges of just life, everyday life. The sun shines on us all. It rains on us all. Whether we be righteous or unrighteous, whether we be young or old, we all have these troubles in our lives. We're all dealing with something. We're all suffering with something. Even the most anointed, because we live in a sinful world. So this is something I've been thinking about as I've been reading through this. I've been thinking, man, Jacob's so blessed, yet he's going through so much. And think of Joseph. He's a righteous man, right? A godly man. And he's chosen to save Israel and save all of Egypt and all the surrounding lands from a great famine that's coming in the future. Yet, look at the terrible things that's happening to him. He's sold it into slavery by his own family. So, some of us think, man, I have the worst family, the most evil family members. Have they sold you into slavery? My point is that we all suffer. So be encouraged. It doesn't mean that God is not for you. Sometimes it's just the way life is. And sometimes there's a greater purpose later on. And we'll talk more about that as we get into Joseph later on in the coming weeks. All right, verse 20. And after Joseph perished, the sons of Jacob took unto themselves wives. Okay, when it says after Joseph perished, obviously it's not saying that he's really dead. It's just in the minds of the family members he is, right? As far as Jacob's concerned, he's gone. And after Joseph perished, the sons of Jacob took unto themselves wives. The name of Reuben's wife is Adah, and the name of Simeon's wife is Adibiah, a Canaanite. And the name of Levi's wife is Milcah, the daughters of Aram, of the seed of the sons of Terah. And the name of Judah's wife, Besutziel, a Canaanite. And the name of Ishkar's wife, Hezekiah. And the name of Zubalan's wife, Me'aman. And the name of Dan's wife, Eglah. And the name of Naphtali's wife, Rasu'u of Mesopotamia. And the name of Gad's wife, Makkah. And the name of Asher's wife, Ijona. And the name of Joseph's wife, Asenath the Egyptian. And the name of Benjamin's wife, Ijaskah. And Simeon repented and took a second wife from Mesopotamia as his brothers. All right, chapter 35, verse 1. And in the first year of the first week of the 45th Jubilee, Rebekah called Jacob her son and commanded him regarding his father and regarding his brother, that he should honor them all the days of his life. And Jacob said, I will do everything as thou hast commanded me. For this thing will be an honor of greatness to me and righteousness before the Lord, that I should honor them. And thou too, mother, knowest from the time I was born unto this day all my deeds and all that is in my heart, that I always think good concerning all. And how should I not do this thing which thou hast commanded me, that I should honor my father and my brother? Tell me, mother, what perversity hast thou seen in me? And I shall turn away from it, and mercy will be upon me. And she said unto him, My son, I have not seen in thee all my days any perverse, but only upright deeds. And yet shall I tell thee the truth, my son, I shall die this year, and I shall not survive this year in my life. For I have seen in a dream the day of my death, that I should not live beyond 155 years. And behold, I have completed all the days of my life, which I am to live. And Jacob laughed at the words of his mother, because his mother had said unto him that she should die. And she was sitting opposite of him in the possession of her strength, and she was not infirm in her strength. For she went in and out and saw, and her teeth were strong, and no ailment had touched her all the days of her life. And Jacob said unto her, Blessed am I, mother, if my days approach the days of thy life, and my strength remain in me thus as thy strength, and thou wilt not die, for thou art just jesting idly with me regarding thy death. So Rebekah is telling Jacob basically to honor his family and to live upright, and he's saying, I've always done that. And he even asked her, is there any perversity that you see in me? And she says, none, you've always been upright. And now she's warning him, look, I'm going to die this year. I had a dream. There's so much power in dreams, by the way. Don't discard the dreams. I think sometimes dreams happen to cause you to pray against it. Sometimes dreams happen to prophesy a future event or to warn you about something. Pay attention to dreams. I think they're important. But Jacob's like, no. See, Jacob doesn't believe it because his mother is before him and she's in perfect health. Yes, she's old, but she has no trouble getting around. She has no decay of any kind. She's in perfect condition. So he's thinking, oh, you're just... He's thinking she's speaking hyperbole, but she's not. Verse 9. And she went in to Isaac and said unto him, One petition I make unto thee. Make Esau swear that he will not injure Jacob, nor pursue him with enmity. For thou knowest Esau's thoughts, that they are perverse from his youth, and there is no goodness in him, for he desireth after thy death to kill him. And thou knowest all that he hath done since the day Jacob his brother went to Haran until this day, how he hath forsaken us with his whole heart, and hath done evil to us. Thy flocks he hath taken to himself, and carried off all thy possessions before thy face. And when we implored him and besought him for what was our own, he did as a man who was taken pity on us. And he is bitter against thee, because thou didst bless Jacob, thy perfect and upright son. For there is no evil, but only goodness in him. And since he came from Haran unto this day, he hath not robbed us of aught. For he bringeth us everything in its season always, and he rejoices with all his heart when we take at his hands, and he blesses us, and hath not parted from us since he came from Haran until this day. And he remaineth with us continually at home, honoring us. So Rebekah is pleading with Isaac, saying, hey, because she knows he's about to die too. And he's like, make Esau swear he's not going to hurt Jacob. Because if you remember, Jacob's comment was, when my father dies, I'm going to kill my brother. All right. And Rebekah hasn't forgotten that. And she's pointing out the fact that Esau's just evil from the beginning. Not only that, he's plundered even his own household. He's taken his mother and his father's goods. Just always evil. He took wives from women he wasn't supposed to take wives from, and he took many wives. He's just always doing. Esau represents the world. He's always chasing the lust of the world and living in the world, whereas Jacob, his thoughts are always on godly things. But here's Isaac's response. And Isaac said unto her, I too know and see the deeds of Jacob who is with us, how that with all his heart he honoreth us, but I loved Esau formerly more than Jacob, because he was the firstborn, but now I love Jacob more than Esau. For he hath done manifold evil deeds, and there is no righteousness in him, for all his ways are unrighteousness and violence. And now my heart is troubled because of all his deeds, and neither he nor his seed is to be saved. For they are those who will be destroyed from the earth, and who will be rooted out from under heaven. For he hath forsaken the God of Abraham, and gone after his wives, and after their uncleanliness, and after their error, he and his children. And thou dost bid me make him swear that he will not slay Jacob his brother, even if he swear he will not abide by his oath, and he will not do good but evil only. But if he desireth to slay Jacob his brother, into Jacob's hands will he be given, and he will not escape from his hands. And fear thou not on account of Jacob, for the guardian of Jacob is great and powerful, and honored and praised more than the guardian of Esau. It's almost like Isaac believes that Jacob's either describing that God is just protecting him, or that they each have guardian angels, and the one that guards Jacob is greater than the one that guards Esau. Either one of those possibilities, I think, could be true. But he's pointing out that, Jacob's anointed. If Esau does try to attack him, Jacob will be protected and Esau will be handed into his hands. That's Isaac's thought on it. Verse 18. And Rebekah sent and called Esau, and he came to her, and she said unto him, I have a petition, my son, to make unto thee, and do thou promise to do it, my son. And he said, I will do everything that thou sayest unto me. I will not refuse thy petition. And she said unto him, I ask you that the day I die, that thou wilt take me and bury me near Sarah, thy father's mother, and that thou and Jacob will love each other, and neither will desire evil against the other, but mutually love only, and so ye will prosper, my sons, and be honored in the midst of the land, and no enemy will rejoice over you, and you will be a blessing and a mercy in the eyes of all those that love you. And he said, I will do all that thou hast told me, and I shall bury thee on the day that thou diest near Sarah my father's mother, as thou hast desired, that her bones may be near thy bones. And Jacob my brother also I shall love above all flesh, for I have not a brother in all the earth, but him only. And this is no great merit for me, if I love him, for he is my brother. And we were sown together in thy body, and together came forth from thy womb. And if I do not love my brother, whom shall I love? And I myself beg thee to exhort Jacob concerning me, and concerning my sons, for I know that he will surely be king over me, and my sons, for on the day that my father blessed him, he made him higher, and me the lower. And I swear unto thee that I shall love him, and not desire evil against him all the days of my life, but good only. And he sware unto her regarding all these matters. So of course Esau is swearing, there's no how, I would never do this, he's my brother. But we will find out later on that that's not really Esau's real attitude. And as Isaac predicted, Esau's a liar, right? Of course he's going to say that he won't do that, but surely he will. Verse 25, we're almost through it. And she called Jacob before the eyes of Esau and gave him commandment according to the words which she had spoken to Esau. And he said, I shall do thy pleasure. Believe me that no evil will proceed from me or from my sons against Esau. And I shall be first and not, save in love only. And they ate and drank, she and her sons that night, and she died. 3 Jubilees in 1 week and 1 year old. On that night, and her 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, buried her in the double cave near Sarah, their father's mother. Well, that is chapter 34 and 35 of the book of Jubilees, the ancient book of Jubilees. And I pray that it's been a blessing to you this morning and that this podcast has spoken to your heart and caused you to draw closer to God and to his son Jesus. And I just pray in the powerful name of Jesus that this work is going forth and really piercing hearts and making a difference in your life. Well, that's all I have for you this morning. Peace and grace be with all of you. And until the next time, God bless.